I just realized how long this video is going to be. Well, today we're getting into the backstories of all of these children. There's way more to go over, but they're all the way in Florida because stuff happened, and you'll figure that out in a different video, okay? Okay. So I normally start with, I'm going to start with this one. This is Teddy. She is my birth child. I don't know why. She was actually an orphan. She ran away from the orphanage and she wound up here. She doesn't really have that sad of a backstory, but she just ended up as an orphan because she was on a train track with her family, like her normal bear family, and like they ended up coming from like Antarctica, and then her parents and like little brother, we'll get into her like little brother next backstory because there's like a ton more babies to go over. But her parents got hit by the train, causing them to smash into multiple pieces. So only her and her brother was able to survive, and they ran away, ended up at an orphanage because they were like, because at first people thought bears were human, I think. So her and her brother wound up at an orphanage. One second, let me go get her brother. That took me a century to find. So this is Teddy's younger brother, Noah. So, Noah wound up on the train track, barely injured. His paw was smushed. That's why there's so many stitches on his paw. And causing him to go in a coma. But we all know they wound up in an orphanage, and we all know that they lived. But Teddy ran away from the train tracks, leaving her brother behind. So, but they ran away from the actual orphanage that they were kept in and stayed there for like 2.5 years. They ran away and they wound up here. So, yeah. We'll get into Noah's actual backstory next, because he has a pretty tragic backstory of how he was born and stuff. So, yeah. They're brother and sister, so I'm going to keep them like that for now. Next, we're going to go into my youngest. Oh, and by the way, Teddy's 3.5. This is, oh my gosh, what's her name? Serenity. So this is Serenity, and she's my youngest baby. She is 1.5, apparently, but she's my youngest child. We'll get into like stuffed animals when we move on. So she is my birth child, but she actually ran away from home, so I put up like missing posters. She ended up coming back home the next day, and she looked like she was beat up to death. Like, she looked like she just crawled out of a gravestone. So we had to give her some like medicine. So yeah, that's what that is. We just put on her medicine like before this video. And she also has a small bruise, and that's a line where her stitches were. And I don't know what that is. And so I guess it's all for her backstory. I completely changed her backstory. Her old name was Kaylee, but I already had an adult named Kaylee, but I forgot. So this is now Serenity. I changed her age, I changed her personality, and I changed her voice. And you'll see more of her in some of my videos. And yes, I did make this dress out of this old sock I had with like little pom-poms. Okay, so we're gonna get into like the brothers and sisters now. This is her old name was Serenity, but now this is Serenity. So this is Charlotte. I'm making a whole entire series called Charlotte Hills, and this is Charlotte. She is Charlotte Hills. Okay, so I can give you and this is her little brother. Charlotte Hills is actually 4.5. She is one of my middle children. She is not my birth child. She is actually birth child from one of my friends. So, then we have little Mason. I think it's Mason. Mason is Milo's stepbrother-ish. And, wait, these two are twins, but he was born a little after her, so he is actually 2.5. And this is actually their little sister, which is 1.5. He's 2.5, and they're like, I think, twins by a couple minutes. So I consider him older by 2 and her by 1. But they're not. Those three are not my birth children. No, not all the blonde children are in one family. No, just these 3 in the front. Take care of your little brother. But their backstory is basically the same as hers, but they wound up in an orphanage while she wandered off and wound up here. I completely forgot her backstory. Holy crap. But she wound up here after escaping from the orphanage after waddling here. So, they were in the orphanage for about 2.5 more years. So, a month ago, like, I made a whole entire video on Jessie finding her. So, like, I think a month ago we found her and she wound up here. Yeah, Charlotte. And, yes, I did make this, but I didn't make it. I actually just fixed the past part. And he wound it off almost dying at the orphanage because no one actually wanted him because he was too young to actually be in the orphanage because, like, apparently the orphanage doesn't like really young people, and he got beat up, abused, he got used and abused, and then he got kicked out, which he wound up finding and bumping into his sister, and she was already at the house. He bumped into his sister and ended up forgetting who she was because she was hit so hard in the head that he had brain damage and he had passed downwind into a coma. So, wow, why do they have such tragic backstories? So, he ended up running away after his coma, which his sister just left him there. You're evil. Which he is actually a werewolf, and we'll get into Darcy's magical powers later. Yeah, Darcy is the one who turned him into a werewolf because she has magical powers, and the second dimension, you'll figure all that out in Charlotte Hills, and Bittersweet, and all that other stuff. You'll find out about that. So he wound up coming with his sister after his sister was found. He ended up staying here, but I didn't make a video on that because I thought she was be more tragic. Okay, time to get into the other stuffed animals. This is Darcy. She is 8 months, and she doesn't really have that tragic of a backstory, but it's gonna be like too long. Like her backstory is like too long. So I think her backstory is gonna be like in the next episode. Plus, it's been like 7 minutes. So Casey. She got hit by a car. She was left behind and hit by a car. She was left behind by her family and hit by a car. Her foster family was actually really mean. They abused her whenever she didn't obey her foster family. They would like grab her and like throw her in her kennel and start kicking the kennel, beating the kennel, and her kennel had basically like dentins in it. But they said she was for sale and that they didn't have to really take care of her. Like, just because your dog is for sale doesn't mean you don't have to take care of it. You still have to take care of it. Just let that old nut, if you hate dogs, no. 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 But I get it, but just because you're going to sell the dog doesn't mean you have to abuse the dog. So I ended up taking Casey, and she's gotten used to my family, and you've seen some of the videos, like some of the sick videos. She takes care of the kids. Right now she's a little bit sick, but she's okay. Next we wound up into Jessie. Her backstory will make you cry. Like, I'm not kidding. It will make you cry. She was abused. Her family kicked her out. She wound up in an orphanage. And, she almost died about 5 times. So, she was used and abused. So she was taken on, and we know she wound up here, but her backstory is way too long, and I don't want to make you guys cry. She is my birth child, and I'm not going to tell you all the names yet. This is Emma, and Emma is my birth child. Nothing tragic really happened. She's my birth child, and nothing really tragic happened to her. She got sick when she was a baby. She had a bunch of ear infections, and yeah, whatever, and we know she still lives here. I almost put her up for adoption, but I knew she was, like, way too cute. I adopted him. His name is Milo. And I make something called, what's it called again? One second, guys.